I have been toying around with the idea of doing long form content for a while now, and I'm thinking about just using it as a means to explore my art creatively and make mood boards or talk about things that I are on my mind and not really telling anyone I know that I'm doing it and just doing it. I think I first want to explore an old art project that I was working on in 2020, which I talked about in the first video that I posted, tapping into old parts of myself that I don't think should be dead anymore and I should bring back and rediscover. I very affectionately called this project Apathy, and it's something that kind of just got left behind in 2020. It's something that I worked on at the beginning of COVID when I was going through a breakup and then never really looked back into it. And now that I'm very healed, I've been single for a long time, and there's not really any feelings there. I'm truly in a state of apathy towards this project. I actually want to breathe some new life into it and try to like figure out exactly what I want to get out of this. I feel like art, especially, I mean, it's usually paintings where they say, the painting's never really done until you just stop painting one day. But I still kind of feel that way about all art forms. Like, I always feel like I could reopen a project and discover something new. And I don't know, I have a very different perspective now. And I think I have a little bit more taste than I had when I was 25. So why not rediscover it? First of all, the concept behind apathy was it was the thing that I was looking for when I was going through a breakup. Like I wanted to feel nothing about the situation, obviously, but I think I was looking for a complete escape from myself at the time. And 2020, it was not something I could run from. I was really trapped with all of the feelings that I had. And I think instead of making something really sad looking and a lot of like depressing art, I leaned really, really hyper femme and pastel and something that was really different from anything that I knew beforehand. So it kind of felt like I was starting a new brand of a person. And I kind of did when I look back at who I was then and I look back at my apartment from that time. It really reflected this project. And I didn't really ever think of it at that time that that's what I was doing. But now looking back at it, I'm like, oh, I see. It inspired my entire life. It was kind of like the blueprint from like who I was going to become at that time. I'm not really in this aesthetic anymore. I mean, you'll see my room behind me looks nothing like my room from 2020, but it's still a very fun and like energetic project that I want to explore. And so today I was just pinning some things. Usually I start thinking about a project, I go onto my Pinterest and I have an old board called Apathy, which I'm still playing in and trying to see what images I pulled. And a lot of them don't resonate with me anymore. Not only do they look like old, like 25-year-old pin them, but I don't really, I don't see a like true vision, but I am locking in now what I think that vision actually should be. I made a video on TikTok yesterday talking about, discovering my brand identity and who I am as an artist and who I am as a person and how I would describe myself to people if they asked. And something that came up that I hadn't really thought too deeply into is that I really do like looking at and referencing old films. And when I was thinking about apathy as a concept, I was thinking about one of my favorite like comfort movies growing up from when I was a kid that my mom made me watch all old movies all the time. So Alfred Hitchcock was very commonly on in my house. And The Birds is one of my favorite movies. Specifically, the feeling that I think apathy is most relevant to is at the end of the movie when Melanie is getting into the car and she's completely disassociated. And blank stare, clearly really traumatized, but she's very reactionary, obviously, to the birds when she's getting into the car and they're just trying to keep her calm. And you can see there's like a sense that she's very defeated. And when they're leaving the house and the birds, you don't really know if the birds are going to go on forever or if this bird situation is only going on in this small town. And I like the idea of not knowing what comes next and it being extremely open-ended. Hi, baby. That's Harley. So I started to pull a lot of images from the birds, and I want to look at a lot of stills from that. And when I was thinking about visually, what would this concept of apathy look like to me visually if it was a shoot or a video? I pictured it being in this house from the birds that they were stuck in, because I mean, obviously related to being stuck in the house in COVID, but it's also being trapped in your own mind when you're in a situation like a breakup that is so heartbreaking. You are really trapped in your own feelings. I am someone that will stay home and let myself feel everything and, get it all out. And I think shooting it in a house would be one thing. I also want to probably take it a step further and do a shoot in the attic where she got attacked by the birds. And so I'm like trying to pull imagery of like what I think the shoot would look like. Obviously, it's not something that exists, so it's hard to find images that would evoke this feeling that I'm going for. And then I started to pull a lot of quilting, because quilting was the original quilting and quilted textiles were the original inspiration that I was pulling for Apathy. And so then I started pulling Turkish yorgans. Am I saying that right? And I really love the pictures in them and the quilting. And I'm picturing myself like laying in my quilt in 2020, laying in bed crying. And if I were to do a shoot, I would do like a quilted dress that's super layered, and I would make the dress big enough that it could be like the sheets of the bed. And she's like basically stuck in bed with her feelings, and the feelings would kind of be evoked in the imagery that's in the quilts that are on the bed. And I thought about some different shots that could be had where, yes, obviously she's sitting on the bed in the quilt and it's all consuming. I would also see a shot that's like through the roof, maybe open. You know how they were like boarding up the house? I'd probably take shots of this quilting and whatever would be made out of this through like the broken glass of the windows. I'd probably want, because it's quilts, also to have like feathers flying about at like during the shoot. And I really like the scenes in the birds where there's the people running, but the birds are like in motion in front of them and they're just kind of like running away. And I'll add some pictures of that for reference. So I was kind of going there. And then I really liked the idea when I was looking at the quilts. Obviously, I was seeing a lot of this like embossed aluminum and metal that people have been doing lately. That's kind of it's a DIY thing that I've just recently seen. And I like ones where there's words. I obviously like ones where there are flowers embossed on, or is it debossed? I call it embossed. I know they're different. I can't remember which is which, but I like the ones where there's words. And I'd probably add some kind of metal detailing that had words and maybe journal entries from that time of mine and have incorporate that into the look, whether it be like a belt or corsetry or jewelry or head adornment or something. Then once I was like thinking about the birds a lot, I was thinking I want to go back and see, because I have a Vogue subscription, to see what Vogue's issues looked like in 1963. And you can like go look at old Vogues from like every year, they have scans of all the magazines. So then I started to go on a deep dive into Vogue, which I was a little hesitant towards, because obviously like old issues of Vogue, I don't know, I try to find references where there's people of color, and obviously Vogue is not going to have a ton of people of color in these old issues. But then I started going on a deep dive of the Vogue. Like, something interesting that I found while looking was all of these house coats and robes that women would wear to like lounge around the house that are also quilted. And that kind of gives me good inspiration to draw a look that is quilted like this, or at least like hardly, or at least gives me silhouettes. And I like that it's pulled from the same time as the movie that I'm looking at and would shoot. And I might do a separate video of all the different things that I pulled from Vogue. Maybe, I don't know if I do one at all of the years. That sounds like a lot of work, but I did like a lot of the advertisements. I ended up making a Pinterest board with, I like took screenshots of all the Vogue scans that I liked and I put them into a Pinterest board called Vogue in the year, so that I can have it as a reference and I don't have these sitting on my phone. So maybe I will share those. I'm going to continue to try and mood board on this concept, and I'm probably going to start doing some sketches, and perhaps I will add another part to this, or maybe I'll continue this since it's long form. I can talk as long as I want on here, to share where my sketches end up going, and maybe I can explain. But I'm really fascinated in where this is going versus where I was with Apathy, because I think I've evolved as an artist in a way that I wasn't expecting looking at this, because the pins from when I was 25 are, I like them. They're colorful. I like the quilting. I like the textures that she was going for. She was going more like farm. And I do feel like the House and the Birds is still farm-like. Obviously, it's very remote. I mean, they're like near the Bay Area, but it has a little bit more like feeling in it. Like, I think I was just pulling pretty things and pulling things that were like in similar color ranges, and I like how optimistic it feels. I don't want it to like go dark if I redo this. I don't want to necessarily change the vibe that she was going for, because I do get that the part of the escape that I was going for at that time was leaving behind this more hard version of me to go for something softer. So I do like that, but I am definitely going to mature it and find ways to make this feel a little more timeless, because I think the images that I pulled just look very 2020. And I mean, these images might look old eventually, but I think I'm pulling references that to me are timeless. So I'll start mood boarding and I'll start pulling things together. I really like some of the images that are here it's like, I don't know how to describe it yet. I kind of have to digest this because I'm just looking at it, but I'm seeing thinking about people I also saw Backrooms yesterday, which I was also like, maybe I do like a Backrooms type situation, because a breakup and COVID, that all feels like liminal spaces, not like creepy liminal spaces like Backrooms. But I liked in the movie how they had people sinking into the ground and the furniture sinking into the ground. And I was obviously leaning very kind of stuck in bed for this project. So what if it was other shots could be people sinking into the ground? I don't know yet. I pulled an image that's a guy sinking into a bed that I really like. And then that kind of led me to some more of these embossed images that have clothes, which I think is pretty cool, and body parts, and I don't know. I really like where all the elements are going. I'm going to start to patch together a mood board because I like all the colors here. I like that all of the quilts, are on these shiny or more metallic feeling fabrics that are silky. And I do like them juxtaposed with these chromes and silvers. I like this billowing against this harder structure. And I do like some of the color palette that I'm starting to pull. It's soft, not as soft pastel as I was. It's like a dustier pastel than I was pulling originally. And I like the idea of having furniture incorporated in this. I don't know if it's because I'm coming off Backrooms again. There's so much furniture, but I'm looking a lot at furniture. I'm looking at the birds. I'm looking at vintage things. I'm also looking at different types of birds. I wouldn't do crows. I pulled some images that were pigeons. I pulled some that were birds that looked more like birds that were in my town growing up. I'll just continue to pull and brainstorm and maybe do just a visual video. And I don't know yet where I'm going with this. And I've never done YouTube, and I haven't necessarily followed anyone else on YouTube. So I feel like it feels good. I feel like when you're on TikTok and on Reels or whatever for so long, you end up almost copying what you're seeing, because that's just what you're used to. And it seems like that's just what those algorithms like. And because I know nothing about YouTube, I think I might have more fun and more freedom because I'm not referencing anyone else, and I'm just going to completely show you what's going on in here, which should be fun. I've never also really posted things speaking in front of a camera and sharing my ideas like this, but I know as I get older, I just don't care as much, and I am having a lot of fun documenting my creative process lately. I'm having a lot of fun exploring who I am and expressing it in a way where I'm not scared anymore of the judgment of others. And it is greatly, greatly helping my creativity and my mental. I have been striving to do art every day. Sometimes I don't do it every day, but I've been creating more art than I ever have in the past, and it doesn't feel forced, and I don't feel like doesn't feel like a chore, and it feels truly like a hobby, and I'm having a lot of fun. And even if no one finds this and this goes nowhere, I'll always have it to document where I've been creatively, and maybe me in another 5 years can look back at this and have a better idea of what she wants to do. So let's see, maybe I'll even make some shorts about this, and maybe that'll be how people find me. People don't have to find me at all. I work full-time in fashion, so I do creative projects anyway, but this will be fun that I'm doing it for me. All right, see ya.